So we're back on the trap line today. Gonna set some possum traps. The weather's not the best, but that should be fine. I don't think we probably won't catch anything tonight because it's not the nice weather. I tend to catch more possums when it's like nicer weather, when it's dry. So it's a bit wet today, but we'll see what happens. Yeah. So the first thing that you need to learn when you're setting out your traps is, of course, how to set the trap. So I'll show you that. So lots of people say, like, use your hands, don't use your feet because it's hard on the trap. I like to use my feet and my hands because I find it easier. So we'll get started. I'll just put it here. So this is the dog, and you want the dog to be facing away, because if you have the dog there and these come back. So I'm going to teach you how to set your possum trap. So the first step that you need to do is make sure that this, which is called the dog, is facing away. And then people say that to use your hands because if you use your feet it's hard on the trap. But I just use my feet because it's a little bit easier. So yeah. So first thing you're gonna do when you use your feet is you're gonna put it this way. Is you're gonna step on these bits. Then pull these back and pull the dog over to the pan under the clip. So that's your set possum trap. It's pretty simple, but it takes a little bit to learn how to do it. So there it is. You kind of want the pan to be as parallel with the jaws, which are these things, as possible. This one needs a bit of tuning, but it should be alright for a little bit. So yeah. So the next step that you want to learn is where to put your possum trap. You don't have to set it before you put it near the tree, but before you screw it in or staple it. But you want to find a tree that is like this, nice and bushy. It doesn't have to be like this tree. It can be a straight tree with lots of things at the top, with lots of branches at the top. But you also need to have an area sort of like this. So, yeah. So once you find your area, you're going to want to dig a small hole so it's flat and on a nice hard surface. So I like to do this with my hammer because you can get good clearance, and you want to make sure that it's nice and firm. Yeah, screw my traps in because, as you see, sometimes you can do them to roots. I like to sort of screw my traps in with these roofing screws left over from our shed. They're pretty good, and when I did staples I actually lost a few traps because possums had pulled it out. So I put some of those roofing screws in, and I've caught heaps of possums, and I haven't lost a single trap yet, which is pretty good. So whether you use staples or screws, this is the time where you stick it into the tree. So I like to put my trap there, and I like to face it that way. Then I like to put my trap that way so the chain is facing the tree. Depending on what type of tree it is, for this one where it's not as much straight, I put it maybe my hand length, so like that, like an L away from the tree. Then depending on how far it is, I normally do half the chain. Like I said, depending on how far it is, but I do half the chain. Yeah. So, because it gives them less time to run around, so when you go to kill them, it's easier and it's less hassle. So once you've screwed it in, or stapled, whatever you do. Next is to put some lure on the tree. So I use my lure. Lots of people use different types of lures, but I use a mixture of flour, icing sugar, and cinnamon for one lure. And then for my other lure, I use flour, icing sugar, and curry powder. You can use different things like to sub out for the cinnamon and the curry powder. Like you can use eucalyptus. Yeah, you can use a lot of different things. I'll make a video on that soon. But yeah, so I'll show you how to put lure on the tree. So today I'm just using my mix of flour, curry powder, and icing sugar. And you want to grab like a fair bit, maybe about that much. Again, it's sort of depending on what trees you have and what trees you choose to put it on. And you're just going to get your hammer, put it on the ground, and it's about a hammer length up. And then you want to line your trap up so it's about there, and just smear it up the tree. The reason why you do that is so the possums stand on their back legs, and then you catch their back legs, not their front legs. So, yeah. So once you've got your traps looking like that, all set with your flour up the tree, I tend to bury my traps just with topsoil that I get from the ground. But it's really up to you. Some people don't bury them because if you don't get anything, it is easier to spot them. But if you're just starting possum trapping and you don't, sometimes you can forget where your traps are. I'd recommend not burying them. But once you get once you know where your traps are, I started to bury them, and I've caught a few possums off burying them. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So yeah. So these are my rat traps. I made them myself. I basically copied Doc's idea, but I'll talk to you a little later and I'll make a video about them. So otherwise I'll get distracted and I'll just talk about possums. So this is my possum trap, where I caught the last possum. And as you see, it's quite a tall tree, but heaps of stuff at the top. So, what I mean about the long tree stuff is that you want it to be about here. Because the possum is not going to stand here, it's going to stand about there and feed on the bait. So, you want it to be about a hand length away from the foot of the tree. So yeah. So that should be the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.